Welcome, everybody. My name is Brian Rose. I serve as the Associate Director of Career Education in the VCU School of Business Career Services office. Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about professional email etiquette. Obviously, we're talking about it in order to, get an understanding of the different parts of an email and how to construct it. But even more than that, the entire point of today is to talk about how to use email and a few other forms of communication to create a professional brand for yourself and develop relationships and positive relationships with other people. Email is used so frequently that it can really be a relationship development tool, not only how you write emails well and grammatically correct and well organized and well thought out, but the way that you engage with it. You can develop relationships and positive relationships with people that you might never actually be in the same room with. So let's go ahead and get going today. So the first thing that goes in our mind when it comes to emails is, and communication in general, is what is the message and what form of communication is necessary. So before we ever even hit send on the email, it's important to ask ourselves, what is the message and how do I communicate it? So rich, kind of think about, dark chocolate, right? It's complex, there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot of taste to it, right? And then lean, think about, a bland piece of chicken. It's straightforward, it's easy to digest, it's easy to get down, there's not much complexity in it, right? So rich forms of communication, phone, Skype, in-person, lean forms of communication, email, Gchat, text, direct messaging. What makes rich forms of communication rich and lean forms of communication lean is that a lot of times with rich forms of communication with phone, Skype, in-person, you can, especially from Skype and in-person, you can get nonverbals, you can get tone really well, you can understand the context, not only what someone is saying, but how they're saying it. With lean forms of communication, all you get is what they're saying. You don't know how they're saying it. We've all read a text or two incorrectly in our day. Maybe we're having a bad day and we get a text from someone and we just sort of, take it wrong, and that's not even the tone that they meant it, but because it's a lean form of communication, we interpreted that tone incorrectly. So again, we're evaluating, should we send an email or do we need to chat with someone over the phone or over Skype or in person about what we're about to share? So rich messaging, right? It's complex in detail or emotion. So it might be a lot of information, and specifically new information that no one has ever heard, that maybe I need to talk out with them because they have their own duties, they have their own, job, they have their own stuff going on. So maybe I need to ask for a time to chat over the phone or set up a meeting in person to talk it over, to get on the same page about it before I just throw all this stuff at somebody. Or maybe it's complex in emotion. Not necessarily emotion towards that person or maybe to the situation, whatever it is. You don't ever want your emails to come across as, unintentionally emotional towards somebody. So we want to make sure that we're choosing the right form of communication with the right message. Then with lean messaging, typically when it comes to the message itself, it's a snippet of information, it's an update, right? It's basic information that's not super complex. So again, this will serve you extremely well throughout your career. If before you send an email or honestly choose any form of communication, what is the right form? Do I really need an in-person meeting for this? Do we really need to chat over the phone, right? Can I send them some of this stuff and then say, hey, if you have any questions, let's set up a meeting, right? So I think that's okay to consider with any form of communication, not just email, right? What is the right form? What is the message, and how does it fit these different forms of communication? So overall, when we focus on email, email is not meant for sweeping changes in plans. You've agreed on something and you're changing the entire system and not setting a meeting for it. Strong disagreements back and forth. You and someone just don't agree. You're not on the same page, right? It's not time to go back and forth with 20 emails about it, right? You need to set up a time to chat over the phone or in person if you can't get on the same page in one or two emails. It's not for poking fun at colleagues. I don't care if other people do it. It's not the right thing to do. You might enjoy it for some reason in the short term, but in the long term, it's really not going to serve you well. And time-sensitive matters. We'll talk about response time in a little bit, but typically people are expecting about 12 hours for email in the professional setting. And especially if you have a job in the office or something like that, 12 hours is way too late. But 12 hours is at maximum the expectation. So you can't expect, if you really, really need something ASAP, that email is going to deliver, because people are traveling, they're in meetings, everyone has different schedules. And then email is meant for previously discussed updates and follow-ups. Hey, we just had this meeting. I know everyone took notes, but here's the updates. Here's what everyone needs to know. Initial partnership requests. You never met somebody, right? And you're asking to meet with them and talk to them and introduce yourself to them. Meeting requests and questions, and then sharing information with groups. Again, you've chatted about some information. Everyone's on the same page about it. Here's some information about, what's going on, so you know what's new and you know where things are headed. So we want to build off these concepts and talk about audience, tone, and strategic content. So it's important to think about, as you see the power dynamics piece, it's important to think about, what is my power status in relation to this person, and how much agency do I have in this dynamic. So you might be emailing a supervisor who is very rigid, right? Who is very rigid. They're very much a supervisor, you're very much the employee. So it's important, as you're thinking about rich messaging and lean messaging, that you get a handle and understanding on even what they consider to be rich messaging and lean messaging. What do they email versus what do they communicate in person, right? What do they share in a meeting versus what do they email? So it's important to pay attention to the folks that are supervising you and your superiors about how they email, and make sure that you're understanding and adapting to that. Relationship dynamics. What's the level of our relationship? Friend, coworker, mentor, employee. You might have a boss that's more of a mentor. So instead of having to set up appointments all the time, or phone follow-ups once a week or whatever it is, you can send some more complex information. A rich communication that, for someone else that can't go over email, for someone maybe with a closer relationship, or you're on the same page with somebody, that rich messaging and the complex and detail or emotion might be able to go over email, because you have a better relationship with someone, you're closer, you're able to get on the same page really easily. So it's important to realize that relationship dynamics in general play a huge, huge factor, right, in the way that you email and communicate. So always make sure that you're understanding power dynamics and relationship dynamics. We also need to understand the nature of the request or information. Is it the first time I'm emailing somebody, right? So I want to make sure that I'm providing some context to who I am, right? Is it an inconvenient request? We'll talk about emailing a faculty member in a little bit, asking for an exception. You don't need to spend the entire email apologizing. That's not what you need to do, but it needs to make sure that the tone of the email, that you seem like you understand and you appreciate that you're asking for something, right? You're not just demanding something. You're understanding that this is inconvenient, that I'm asking for an exception, right? Is it a simple update or follow-up, right? And then the thing we want to make sure that we're doing in our tone is we're always checking our frustrations at the door. Emotional emails might provide short-term satisfaction, but rarely have long-term gain. You should never use the phrase "as per my last email" or anything that can be confused as attitude or frustration in that nature. It's not going to help you develop positive relationships with people. It's not going to help you communicate yourself, be heard, and hear other people, right? Check your frustrations and your tone that can be confused as a little too blunt, or maybe frustrated, or maybe a little bit of attitude at the door. It's something that we all have to do, and all have to make sure that we're proofing our emails and our tone of how am I coming across? Am I being direct into what I'm trying to communicate? But at the same time, am I being collaborative in my tone, right? Always thinking about those things. So as we think about an email, there are parts to an email, right? The subject line is important. We want to make sure that it indicates purpose. I get, probably in a busy day, 75 to 100 emails a day. That's what I get when we're full on in the year and doing our whole full slate of work. So it's important to realize that subject lines are really important for a lot of people who are working, because it gives me an understanding of what the topic is and when I can handle it in my day. It also, we have auto content folders that if a keyword is in a subject line, it'll go into that folder and I'll know when to handle it and who to respond to. So it's important to realize that we need to make sure that it's no more than 7 words, it's straightforward, and it's nothing too vague. So maybe I interviewed with somebody, and so I'm just going to say, Brian Rose, interview, thank you. Right? As we're sending out our information to volunteers for the career fair, it's going to say something like career fair duties update. Very straightforward as to what you're going to read. Very straightforward that this matters to you and what this is about. So it's helpful for the reader to prioritize reading that content. One thing, if you don't remember anything else from this presentation, remember intros and outros. Again, we kind of talked about a little bit at the beginning, I just kind of shared a sentence about it, is that emails can really be an awesome relationship development tool, right? I have talked to people face-to-face who are some of the most gregarious and engaging people out there, but over email, they're so rigid, and they almost seem frustrated that they're even emailing you, right? And one way to seem open and engaging, no matter the content of your email, is to provide intros and outros in your emails. Now, if you're engaged in a 4 or 5 email thread, you don't need to keep providing intros and outros, but especially the first or second email and emails, new threads and things like that, it's important to consider utilizing intros and outros. And what are those? Obviously, we're starting with dear, hello, or just someone's name. So dear Brian, hello Brian, or the person's name, right? You can also, depending on the relationship dynamic or whatever, you can use, Dr. blank or Mr. or Mrs. or whatever it is. An intro that I always typically use is something along the lines of, I hope you're having a great week. That always softens the email. Instead of just making the email directly about me and what I'm looking for and what I need and what I'm communicating, I'm taking a second to recognize them as a person, right? And again, I think that's a really helpful tool. So something along the lines of, I hope you're having a great week. I hope Friday is treating you well and you're looking forward to the weekend. Whatever it is, I don't know. But I usually use some form of, I hope you're having a great week. And then at the end, saying something like, thank you for your time. One thing that's also really helpful is if you're providing some information that someone's having to think on or consider or reflect on, say something like, if you have any questions, please let me know. Or, hey, I know I shared a decent amount of new information. I shared a decent amount of new information in this email, but if you have any questions, I'm here to help, right? So making sure that you own a little bit of what you've communicated, if some of it's been slightly complex, and allowing the door to be open for further conversation. Those little small touches will truly create a really strong professional brand for yourself, and it will help you, like I said, build more positive relationships with people. And then you want to end your email with sincerely, best, respectfully, or some salutation. I use best. I just think it's very straightforward, and I like that salutation personally. And then when it comes to the body of the email, a couple of things that we want to get on the same page about with is the fact that we want it to be clear and concise. Yes, you have an intro. Yes, you have an outro. But it's also important to get to the point and be clear about what you need. The reason why you can get to the point, be clear and concise, and be clear about what you need in the body is because you have an intro and outro that actually addresses the person as a person. You'll read these emails and someone's immediately direct and immediately clear and concise, and they don't have an intro, they don't have an outro. It seems and feels rude, right? That tone that we're talking about in the last slide, it doesn't feel right? We don't enjoy it, and we likely don't have as positive of an opinion of somebody as we would if they kind of softened up the email on the front and back end. So once we get to the body of the email, just be clear and concise, get to the point of what you need, get to the point of what you're communicating. Hello, Brian, I hope you're having a great week. In the body here, I'm reaching out today to follow up on blank. What is the status of the current project? If you just got that email and said, hello, Brian, I'm reaching out I want to know more about the project, the blank project. What's the status? I understand that that's being really direct. I understand that you're getting to the point. That's great and that's fantastic. But again, emails aren't just a way to share and information. We can use them as a relationship development tool and to soften up our emails just a little bit. We're still getting what we need, but we're also focusing on the interpersonal dynamics as well. No slang. Yes, there might be abbreviations. Yes, there might be jargon in your job, but no slang. Use complete sentences. Use complete words. We're not putting the letter U instead of the word YOU, right? Another thing that if you don't remember anything else, remember this. Sometimes you have a longer email, and that's just the way it is. But break up longer emails into smaller paragraphs. People cannot stand getting emails that have 8 sentences that are all in the same paragraph. It's just one big clump of text. Break those emails down. No more than 3, maximum 4 sentences per paragraph in an email, right? Some emails are going to be longer. Hopefully all of your emails are not that long. But it's important to realize that we need to break up long emails. It's actually going to encourage people to read it, and it's going to be easier for someone to digest and understand if we break it down, especially if there's a couple concepts that you're talking about, right? Break up that email and break up those paragraphs by the flow of the concepts you're talking about even, and it's going to help people. I take way too long to proof for tone and grammar of my emails. It's just something that is really, really important to me, and it's probably too important to me, but I'd rather do that than not proof them. I make sure that my grammar is accurate, that my tone is exactly what I want it to be. I think about, again, the relationship dynamics, the power dynamics, the context of the relationship, the context of the project that I'm emailing about, and I'm making sure the tone hits what I want it to hit and that my grammar is proper. So make sure that you read through your email. Just take 2 or 3 minutes to read through, make sure everything's good, and then send it off. All right. So what I want you to do is I'm going to set you up for an actual, from home activity. So what I want you to do is picture yourself saying, "Dear Professor, I have a conflict." So using this format, write a subject line, write an intro and outro, and a body of the idea that you cannot make a test, an upcoming test. You have some sort of conflict that you cannot get out of. It might be work, it might be family things, it might be involvement, an organization you might get kicked out of, if you can't attend an event, something along those lines. Bottom line is you have a conflict and you are explaining that to your professor and you're asking for an exception to not take the test on that date. So what I want you to do is I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pause a few seconds so you can pause this video and practice. But what I want you to do is practice, "Dear Professor, I have a conflict. I can't come to this test for some reason." And I want you to practice writing that email, the subject line, the intro, the outro, and the body. So I'm going to pause here for a couple seconds so you can hit pause and then play when you're ready. And we're back. Hopefully that practice was good for you, that you took a second to write out an example of this and complete this activity. So if we were in person, this is where I would ask for some of you to read out what you wrote. I'm going to read all of these. "Dear Professor, I have a conflict." Example. So too wordy. "This is Jess Frankenreich. Do you know me? I'm in bus and blank. Is my favorite class right now." Or "Bus and blank is my favorite class right now. I love the way the lectures are so organized. I can always follow along and know what will be on the test. Speaking of tests, I was just thinking about the next exam. I joined this organization a few semesters ago, and they make us go to events. If we don't go, we can be kicked out. So I really need to go. If there's any way you can make an exception, ... So here's the deal with this. As you hear that, there's a couple things going on. The tone isn't quite right. It's very conversational. It rambles a little bit, and it's almost like stream of consciousness. Like Jess is just writing out this email. Whatever comes to her mind, she's writing out at that moment. Speaking of tests, right? That's not necessarily what we're looking for. Also, as a faculty member, as instructor, or someone with any sort of power, whether it's an employer, or anything, pandering is something to really think about. So it's a bit condescending how many times that Jess compliments the faculty member. It's very clear that she's about to ask for something. It's definitely okay to say, hey, I've really enjoyed your class so far, but to have 3 separate sentences that talks about how wonderful this class is before you ask for something is probably not the right way to go. So tone and organization hasn't really been fully thought out by Jess in this one. Too informal. I have an event I have to go to. I won't make the test this week. When can I reschedule? There's a couple things going on with this. It's not strategic information. I don't really know a lot. I also, for certain professors, they could be teaching a few hundred students a semester. I don't know your name. I don't know what section you're in. I don't know any of that. It's also making assumptions that you can reschedule. You're not owning the fact that this is somewhat inconvenient, that you are asking of something specific from somebody. Just assuming that you can reschedule is pretty presumptive of you by being that blunt. So it's a bit too informal and not appreciating the power dynamics and the inconvenience that's being caused. Just right. We look over here and we see that Jess says, I hope you're having a great week thus far. Again, we have our intro. This is Jess Frankenreich. I'm a student in your bus and blank class. Here, just a kind of a aside, you could offer what section you're in. The boxes I have are only but so big. So feel free to say, I'm a student in your blank class in your blank section. So it just helps the professor even more. And I'm writing about a potential exam time conflict. I have a mandatory event for one of my organizations at the same time as the upcoming exam. Is there any way I can schedule a makeup time? Thank you for your time. Right? So you're being very direct about what you need. You're being very direct about what's going on. You're explaining there's a conflict. You're also understanding that there might be an exchange and a back and forth here about the idea that, hey, what does mandatory exactly mean? You could offer that you could potentially be kicked out or whatever, but that can be offered potentially later. But the tone is right, the information is right, you're being direct about what's going on, and the way you're asking the question, is there any way I can reschedule to make a makeup time, right? So we're being very direct about what we need. So that kind of strikes a nice tone and content chord. The next piece here is, dear team member, do better. So before I set up this next practice email, I want you to think about over here on the side that says for body of email handling conflict. So one thing that we've all probably experienced, whether it's a class project or anything else, is there can be conflict on teams, and that's just the way it is. But when it comes to handling conflict over email or lean forms of communication, it's important to realize that arguing or emotional emails or anything like that really don't get you anywhere. It doesn't actually typically provide any sort of positive and reformative and restorational conversation. So our suggestions when handling conflict over email: address the issue but avoid emotional language. Extend an olive branch, a chance to connect. Hey, this is how I feel about something. This is where we're at. But let's talk about it. I want to connect. Don't make assumptions. Making accusatory statements about somebody and to somebody about how much they care about something or don't care about something, their level of effort, anything like that, even when talking in person, is rarely a good way to go. Right? We don't want to make assumptions. We just want to be very straightforward about what has happened and what's going on. And again, proof for tone and grammar. Right? We want to make sure that we are being honest, we're being straightforward, and extending an olive branch and letting them know, I'm ready to move on from this, I'm ready to get on the same page with this. And we'll get to the examples in a second. So again, I want you to pause this recording. The prompt for this activity is I want you to think about you're working on a team with, let's say, someone in a team project in class, or Maybe if you're in an internship or something like that, you're working on a project with somebody. And, and one team member just really isn't pulling their weight. They're not doing what they need to do, unfortunately. So you're going to send them an email to kind of start handling the situation and trying to move forward. So you're communicating with them that things aren't quite what they should be and how you want to move forward with them. Ready, go. And we're back. Hopefully you paused that and worked on that email, the subject line, the intro, outro, and the body of the email. We'll go ahead and read through these again. Dear team member, do better. Example. So too loaded, right? Too loaded with content and too loaded emotionally. We'll go ahead and read this one. This might be something that you've been in the email thread before, or you might have sent it or received it before, and it's rarely a good way to go. So too loaded here. The section you wrote in our last draft was just not up to par. We were all in the library working hard, and you're nowhere to be found. If you don't step it up, your scores on the peer evaluations are going to be awful. You're lucky we don't go to the professor and tell her how many meetings you've missed and emails you've missed. There's just no excuse for your lack of care for this team and project. That is loaded, right? So a lot of assumptions made. Tone is quite aggressive, a lot of attitude. You might be right in your frustrations, but being right does not mean you communicate like this. Rarely is this going to go well. Rarely do people say, yes, 1,000%, you're right. I haven't done my job. Let me do better. When you're communicated like that, rarely anyone responds that way. So you're not even going to get what you want. You're not even typically going to get someone to work harder communicating with them that way. It's likely going to lead to more drama, meetings with professors, more issues, more texts, more emails. And the thing is the last thing you want to do in a situation like this is spend more time dealing with it. You want to spend less time dealing with it. So the way you move on from it, we'll get to in a second, but that is just way too emotional, way too loaded. The next here is this one's too passive. So I know we all saw the feedback from our last paper, but it's okay. We'll do better next time. Not all of us like conflict. Most of us don't like conflict. But at the end of the day, we don't run from it. We're not passive aggressive and then complaining to our team members behind people's back, right? There's a middle ground that we can have. So just right. I hope your classes are going well for you this week. I'm reaching out because of the most recent score on our group paper, specifically the section you completed. I know it has been difficult for you to make group meetings, but if you want to talk through your section via phone, lunch, or coffee, let me know. We all just want to get an A. I'm happy to help you out. So, here's the interesting thing. It is very clear the tone of this email. You are not happy with this person, right? They know that you are not happy with them. But this is almost like the parent, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. If you can strike that chord, if you can catch that tone and bottle it and put it in an email, right, that is the way we want to go. Clearly, you are writing saying this is just not good enough, right? I understand it's difficult for you to make meetings, but if you want to talk through things, let's do it. This is the way that you move on from things quickly. This is the way that all the work in a team project doesn't just fall on your shoulders. It's also the way that if someone doesn't respond well to an email like this, or even a follow-up email like this, you try a couple times to do this. This is also the way that you send all of those emails to the professor and say, hey, this isn't working. Or you're working on a team at work and someone is just not doing what they're supposed to. You've tried 2, 3, 4 times and you've communicated in this way, trying to connect, trying to talk to them, trying to support them, and they don't improve. Well, you have all the information that you need. You've handled it correctly. You've been classy about it. You've communicated well about it. And it's hit a point that this person is just not showing any motivation, and you can no longer be in charge of that. So you handling it this way gives you the upper hand, right? Rather than handling it, again, with a little bit too much attitude and a little bit too much frustration. It also has the best chance for you to get what you want. This person actually being inspired to do the work, this person being heard and allowed to vent and say, oh, I just had such a rough semester and things are so wild right now, but thanks so much for talking to me about it. I really have just been super confused and honestly avoiding the project just because y'all are so good at it and I'm so busy. That is typically the answer. Someone's afraid or scared or nervous or feels less competent than other people, right? It's rarely that they're just lazy. It's rarely that they just don't want to do the work. That does happen, but if we communicate in this way, it keeps us from making assumptions, but it also gets us what we want. Both someone working harder and the upper hand to say, hey, this person's just not doing it at the end of the day if they don't respond well to this. So a couple of things we're going to fly through here when it comes to just specific emails that you'll come across. Responding promptly is really important. So we want to respond to emails within 24 hours. Typically in the work world, now in class and in college, 24 hours is respectable, but in the work world, honestly, it's 6 hours and 12 hours max is typically what you're looking at for a response time. A lot of times people avoid emails and then forget they ever got them because they never actually respond to them because they don't have an answer to whatever the person's emailing them about. So respond promptly even if you don't have an answer. What I mean by that is saying, hello, their name, thank you for your question. I just wanted to let you know that I'm looking into it and we'll get back to you before the end of this week with an answer. If you have any questions in the meantime, please let me know. Again, we have an intro. Thanks for your question. We have the body. I don't have an answer right now, but here is the date I will get back to you. And also we have an outro. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. We don't just say, I don't know yet, I'll let you know soon. That is not a relationship development email. That tone is way too blunt. It's way too dismissive. This is an email that is going to help someone not feel dismissed, but also let them know you're working on it. I think I skipped one on accident. Again, another way to think about emails is the way that you are housing the content and the way that you are visually laying out content. If you're communicating a procedure or maybe something that has been discussed, right, you want to make sure, again, it's not just in one big blob of text, but also you can use bullet points and numbers and all that good stuff to outline a procedure. So thanks for reaching out with questions about, blank procedure. We should complete the resume review project by the end of the week. I've outlined the process below. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. This is what we're doing. If you have any questions, please let me know. Right? So use bullet points and number systems to lay out processes so people can more easily understand and readily understand what's going on. Sending an attachment, right? We don't just say, see attachment. We still say, I hope you're having a good day. Here's the attachment I promised you. Please find it attached below. If you have any questions, please let me know, right? Really simple, really easy. We're not being lazy with this email. We're letting them know that we're sending what we promised. Here it is. Let me know if you have questions. Also, putting the word attached in the email helps you actually attach the document. I was notorious before Gmail got the feature of, hey, it says attachment in the email. You probably should attach whatever you said you were going to attach. Before Gmail got that feature, I was notorious for just sending off emails, meaning to attach things but never attaching it. It was something I just always messed up on, and not always, but oftentimes messed up on more than I wanted to. So if you put the word attach or attached or attachment in your email, Gmail, Outlook, all these platforms will actually say, hey, it looks like you meant to attach something. And so it'll actually remind you. So it's actually good for multiple reasons to put context into sending an attachment email. Email signature. So as a student, you still want to have an email signature. Just go into your settings in your Gmail, scroll down, you'll see the email signature box, type in your name, type in the fact that type in your specific major, type in when you're going to graduate, and then if you are, have an involvement experience or a leadership position or an organization that you're involved in or a professional organization, or you have a specific job or internship title that relates to your career, feel free to toss that in there, right? So for the student example, that's some good stuff to take a look at. And then I've went ahead and screenshotted and put in my full-time professional example. if you have a master's, if you have a PhD or EDD or terminal degree in that regard, it's not a bad idea, depending on the industry you're in, to kind of toss that in there. I like to use a little bit of a creative font there that's a bit more of a signature, listing my title, my office location. If there's any action that you typically and repeatedly want someone to take, so maybe you're in sales and they can connect with you some way, and access your calendar or schedule some way, it's okay to put that in your email signature. So for me, I put that as a hyperlink in my email signature for students to schedule appointments, so I don't have to repeatedly put that in emails. I just tell people to reference that in my signature, and then I have my phone number, our website, all that good stuff. And then maybe you've taken Strengths Quest or some other assessment that is widely used in the professional world. I put my Strengths Quest top 5 in my signature because it gives people an idea of who I am and the places I'm coming from in the professional world, if they've ever met me or not met me before. Two last slides here as we go to wrap up. Forwarding messages. I know this is a very specific concept here that we're like, hey, why are we talking about this? But it's one thing that we want to make sure that we cover. Please do not just simply forward emails with no context. Be sure that when you hit forward on an email, you're saying, I'm sending you this email because, right? I'm sending this your way because, right? Give some context as to what it is and the action you want someone to take, especially if you're a subordinate, right? If you're sending it to someone above you, don't just forward the email with no note in it. They're likely quite busy getting a few more emails than you per day. So it's important that hit forward in the email. That's totally fine, but tell someone why you're sending it to them, and especially if it's a supervisor, slightly summarize the content, right? You don't have to put all the content in there, but summarize what you want them to get from it. And then if they want to read the entire thing, they can, but you've at least provided them a snapshot of what this is about and why you're sending it to them. Truly busy people really greatly dislike a forward that is not summarized or is not mentioning why the forward is even happening. Last thing here, we want to definitely mention cell phone etiquette. In meetings, please do turn off your cell phone to silent or vibrate. If you are expecting an emergency call, let the person in charge of that meeting or that class or whatever know that you're expecting a call. It is super rude to take a call and just walk out with no information, right? So let that person know who's in charge of that meeting that you're expecting a call. If you get the call, you step out, and likely when you walk out the door, the person leading the meeting will say, hey, Brian will be out in a second. He let me know, and then the person keeps the meeting going, right? Do not have your cell phone on and ringer on at a low volume. Do not check your phone while speaking with a colleague, client, or customer when in a meeting. All right? Do not text for work. Do not use a text for work-related matters that require an email. Right? So we don't want to be texting, then emailing, then texting, then emailing, then texting, then emailing with work information. We want to pick a form of communication so that people aren't having to check, where this actual information is coming from. Again, make sure you contextually understand how people communicate in your organization to get an idea of how text versus email works. But it's important to realize that using all these different forms of communication, things can get lost a little bit. One thing about cell phone etiquette in meetings, most people have their cell phones on the table during meetings these days. If that is not the case, if people are leaving their cell phone at their desk or something like that, or in their pocket and not putting their cell phone on the table, please don't be the only person with their cell phone on the table, right? Follow the lead and follow the action of the people in charge and the people with the most power in the room, because they set the pace for what is accepted and what is not. All right, my goal of this presentation is 40 minutes, and we are 50 seconds from that, so we will wrap up on time. Please do consider meeting with a business career coach today. When we are able to be in person, we are in Sneed Hall B1102. In the virtual environment, we're always available for Zoom and phone appointments. Always, meaning we are available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Please do visit Handshake. All of you have a Handshake profile if you are a student. You just have to go to Handshake and log into it. and set up an appointment via handshake. If you have any problems or questions, you can always call us or email us. But the bottom line of all of this, we care about you. We want you to be successful. We want to help you with any career or grad school search or planning needs. And, the business career coaches are here for you. So let us know how we can help. We'll talk to you soon.